Hi, I'm Dave Lieber, and that really is me falling off the stage. Your thoughts and prayers were most appreciative. But I was 5'8" when I started. I'm 5'7" by the time I landed. I have a guest today that I'm super excited about because I can honestly say that he has the best job in the universe. If you're a sports fan, especially a Dallas Cowboy fan, I have the archivist for the Dallas Cowboys here, Jonathan Thorn, who you really do have the best job in the universe.
Well, thank you.
Nobody else has the job of a $10 billion worth team, and you get to keep all the memorabilia and protect it.
No, when you put it that way, it's an incredible job.
Yeah, and you're wearing black gloves right now because why?
Yes, I got 6 mil nitrile gloves on. It's just great preservation practices. Your fingers have oils and things in them, and whenever you're handling historic artifacts that you want to last lifetimes, it's just best to not add anything to it.
Mm-hmm. And before we get to, we're going to play show and tell because you brought some interesting stuff from the Dallas Cowboys. But you've been the archivist for how long?
It's coming into my 13th season since 2014.
And most people don't know that you exist.
Correct.
Right? And you have warehouses that are air conditioned and all this stuff is stored, and you spent the last dozen years organizing it, right?
Yes, it's still a continual process, the organization of it. The corporate side of for-profit archiving is very, very small. I think the Bureau of Labor Statistics states that there's around 5,000 or 6,000 professional archivists in the entire United States. And then for-profit is like 5% of that. So it's small.
And the person or persons who created this are who?
That would actually be the Jones family themselves. They have had incredible forethought. My understanding when I took this job is that it was the first time a club, a National Football League club, was going to create that position and have an actual archivist. Like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, obviously they did and do. And that's grown now, but usually it was big companies, food processors, insurance companies, railroads, things like that.
Are there other NFL teams that have archives?
There are now. Mm-hmm.
Can you name a couple of them?
A lot of teams already did have like a historian, somebody that's been there a long time. But the Chiefs, the Packers, Ravens.
Figure the Packers, yeah.
Yeah, most of them do now. We actually have a kind of an ad hoc group of the NFL History Network. It's kind of all of us that come together every quarterly to discuss what's going on and share best practices.
And you basically walked into a situation a dozen years ago where everything was just thrown in a room, and you had to organize it from scratch.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. You know, the Jones family, they really did me a big favor coming in here. When they bought the team, they kept everything. And when I say everything, I mean, I was baffled by they literally kept everything from the previous, ownerships and regimes, and, Tom Landry, Tex Schramm, all of those guys. It was kind of everywhere, stored everywhere, but they did have the forethought and understanding that all of this is important. And as an archivist or, special collections person, you're really only as good as the collections that you have to tell the story, to have the primary resources. So it's been a long journey of discovering, preserving, organizing. And in the corporate world, we're getting paid to succeed today. So the challenge has always been do all of that work, but we're going to need to use everything while you're doing it. So you're trying to find things you don't even know exist in the immediate time. And so I've always tried to approach my job to create it like a library, archive, and special collection all in one. And the way that kind of works practically would be libraries process things at an item level. You want this book, it's on this shelf over here. An archive traditionally is in intellectual units and record groups where you have this box of Tex Schramm's fan mail from 1960 to 1972, and you can go find that box and you need to browse through it to find it. So I've always tried to load balance. What are the items we use all the time? or that we think are going to have interest as we go. Get those cataloged at item level. All of the Cowboys administrative files from 1959 on, we're going to do those more as intellectual units and record groups where it's not something we're accessing all the time.
Now, I discovered you when I was working on my book about Danny Don Meredith. And I found out that you exist, and you helped me with a couple of things. And
Yeah, happy.
so I'm like an archivist myself,
Absolutely.
because I have boxes of cowboy memorabilia and stuff too, but probably nothing as good as you. Let's play show and tell. What's
Sure.
the first thing you're going to pull out of your box? And
Well, the
show us?
easiest thing to get to first is, you know, as an archive, my job is to archive everything. So it's your traditional artifacts, also handling digital asset management of all of our films and videos, getting
it's a
those
big
things
job.
digitized, intellectual property rights and how you manage that. What photos can you use? What do you own? What do you not own? Curatorial things. How do we take these artifacts and memorabilia and things of that nature and enrich our fans' experience and tell our story and our history. So one of the things we have is a lot of jerseys, pants, socks, game used, authentic stuff we've produced with Dallas Cowboys merchandising. And one of the things I brought from the 90s is one of Jimmy Johnson's sideline windbreakers, which he was famous for wearing all the time. And this is one of his.
Yeah,
and I haven't done that.
I can see him in there.
There we go. Yeah. And here's the back.
Well, yeah. Jimmy Johnson's jacket.
And actually, one of the things I love about our equipment staff is they do and have done over the years a lot of things in a very kind of old school way, but it just works. And one of those is using Sharpie. And actually, Coach Johnson's name is still here on the tag. If I can get my finger out of the way, you can see his name written in Sharpie right in the tag. And so all these years later, that's still there.
I'm thinking of all the guys that are watching this that want that jacket really badly.
Yeah. I'm sure there are quite a few that
There's a
would love to
little,
have this jacket.
little explanation there.
Yeah.
Head coach 1989 to 1994. I'd say he probably wasn't in the bar wearing that night when he and Jerry got into
I
that
don't
fight.
think so. I won't comment on that. I wasn't there.
I'm the guy. I'll comment on it.
Let's see if I set
All
this
right.
out here.
That's good. That's a good way to start. What else?
Yeah, that's one of those things that there's a lot of ways you could represent that in a display or at a milestone, things like that. That's also going to catch people's eyes. They know that if you're around at that time, you know those jackets he was wearing all the time in the sidelines. So
Yeah, I can see him in that.
well, while we're on the apparel and those things, people love jerseys, especially game-used jerseys, helmets, all those kinds of things. We have a lot of those items dating back, specifically when you start in the 90s. From there on, we have a lot because the Joneses owned the team. They saw the value in that. A lot of things were kept. Prior to that, we have far less. If you go to the Star, we have our evolution of the uniform display that you can see, and there's a lot of those older authentic jerseys are actually on display there. This is one. This is a Southland jersey, Don Meredith's. I brought it just for you from 1963, authentic.
Oh my God, I'm having a heart attack right now.
Yeah, and it's got the long sleeves.
Yeah.
With I love the beautiful star on the.
And he wore this in a game?
My understanding is that he did. I don't have full confirmation on that, but back then, it was going to get worn in a game. Like, they weren't trading jerseys and doing a lot of things they do now where they keep more than a couple of jerseys. And Tex Schramm was a little shrewd. I don't think he wanted to pay for too many more jerseys than they actually needed.
A little shrewd is a nice way of saying he was a cheap.
Yeah,
He's a little guy.
Yeah, a great negotiator, and he kept prices, overhead costs pretty low. But you can also see from Terrell, Texas, the old Southland tag in there. Actually, when I first came here, I called Southland because I had some questions. This is back in 2014, I think, maybe 2015. And they told me that it was their last day of operation when I called them. What it was is we were trying to get some replica things made for that evolution of the uniform. What I found is we had game used socks from like Troy and Emmett, Tony Romo, you know, all of those guys. But I didn't for Bob Hayes and Bob Lilly. And I noticed through photo research that back then, if you notice, the striping patterns on the socks varied by position. Like defensive backs had different striping than quarterback or offensive line. And they actually got me in touch with Twin City Knitting out of, I think, North Carolina, who had been making the socks for the NFL for forever. And I called them up and they're like, yeah, we still have the templates for those socks. So we're actually able to get, authentic reproduction socks for that display, which was really neat. So
if the John Meredith rookie card is worth between $100 and $200, I'd say this is worth probably $5,000 or $10,000. You know.
Yeah, it's people ask me those kinds of valuation. I'm not an appraiser, and I don't. I give valuations for the Cowboys organization for insurance purposes and things. But a lot of times that's just market driven. It's like who knows. It's whatever somebody be willing to pay for it. But I would imagine get a nice little chunk of change.
Well, if it comes up for sale, let me know.
Well, that's my job to make sure these things hopefully never are in a position where they're going up for sale.
Well, thank you for bringing that in for me.
I thought you might appreciate that. Was actually just came back to us. We had it on display at the George Bush Presidential Center. They're doing a exhibit called Game Changer quarterly through the year, and that was a part of it.
Oh, cool.
And I think I brought a picture. This is a 1963 team photo of them wearing that jersey. They have the color inverted on that one.
I've seen that.
I'm holding it to you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's in there somewhere.
What year was that?
Down here, 1963.
Okay, so that was
the same jersey, just with the royal blue inverted onto the white. Let's see. We ready to move on to the next thing? So we have a lot of paper. Usually people shred paper. They get rid of it. The Cowboys organization did not. And then once Mr. Jones took over ownership, I don't know exactly how that all went, but I'm assuming he just saw the value in that and was like, keep it. So most stuff was put on pallets and things like that and stored. But it's all of the administrative files, financials, every player contract, all kinds of things. But one of the coolest things we discovered actually when I was cleaning out Valley Ranch as we were moving to the Star was Tom Landry's entire playbook library, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that in a presentation that I saw in which you said, he invented the 4-3.
The 4-3 flex?
Yeah, and you have the first example of that, right?
Yeah, actually, I took a leaf out of this that was on display here as well. This is just a page out of one of these showing the 4-3 flex strong defense.
That's a very
these are all
document.
Yeah,
because a lot of other NFL teams adopted that.
Yeah, exactly. And these are all written in his hand. We actually have playbooks all the way up to Coach Garrett. So we have Jimmy's playbooks, we have Barry Switzer's playbooks, all of those. And this other side.
Every high school coach in America would like to see what that looked like.
Flip through these, yeah. I just grabbed one out of the box. This is the 1964 offensive playbook. And they were real big on using, I don't remember exactly what these are called, those embossed plastic strips. And also it's interesting, our equipment managers still use these on the back of players' helmets. And I think we're the only team to still do that with their last name. And I find that really fascinating because it just works. You can look at a glance and know whose helmet it is. You don't need a RFID scanner or any other equipment, just your eyes, which is kind of neat. But yeah, if you look through here, it's just very kind of old school. Let's see if I can hold this up right. And it goes through, you have the training camp itinerary and the NFL fine schedules and rules. the actual game schedule, veterans roster, get into all that, and then you just start having. What's also neat is all of Landry's, the what do you call it? The scheme, the numbering system, the colors, what everything means when they would yell out a play call. Which I'm not an X's and O's guys. I wish I was more. I'm just not so much. I'm still constantly trying to look on the field at a game. Is that a dime or a nickel?
So I got a question for you. He used to supposedly relate these plays to Bible verses. Have you ever heard that?
I haven't. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, in the locker room when he would draw plays, he would quote them from the Bible to illustrate the play.
Oh, interesting. No, I actually did not know that.
Hey, I just taught the archivist something new. Yeah.
It's always something new to learn, for sure. But I find these fascinating,
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, coaches today, if this kind of stuff, if they looked at it, if it seems basic or not relevant, or if some of this could actually maybe be of interest today. Like in 1975, Landry brought back the shotgun because he had the Dirty Dozen and all these rookies. That was literally to protect Roger Staubach, because he knew he had all these rookies. Coming up with the 4-3 flex. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So I've always wondered. I was like, if one of our coaches today were to look through this, would they be able to read it and interpret it, and would it be relevant and all? I've always kind of wondered that.
Well, you're in a position to ask them.
Well, they're real busy, and I'm just kind of that guy. They see a face around. I never want to get in their way of what they're trying to do for us. So
Yeah, I see that.
but I still think it would be an interesting experiment to have one of them flip through it and see if some light bulbs go off, or if it's like this.
Or they call the play.
Yeah, or if they actually would use one, or if they got an idea and saw something like, hey, we could, based on our personnel, et cetera, we could modify that and maybe have some success with it. So
It's interesting.
it's kind of, I've always thought that was fascinating.
I think you can pull that off sometime.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe
So
during training camp.
I have to talk to the right people to get in front of them. So, ready for more?
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
This is one of the things we had that was kept is all of our coaches' game film. So from 1960 to 1985, 86, all of our coaches' game film that we as the Cowboys organization shot for the coaches to study after the fact was all done on 16 millimeter film before it switched to beta tape in 1986. And all that was kept. I think a few cans here and there were cherry picked over the decades. But essentially we had it was about 365 miles of film. And this is a can from the Cowboys at Giants, December 4th, 1960, first quarter. So we even have all the cameras that these were shot on. And you can actually see a lot of those on display at the Star.
So you have almost every game on film.
Yeah, so we had all of this digitized. The Joneses were very generous in understanding that this film was degrading at a rapid rate. All of it's cellulose acetate, so it suffers from vinegar syndrome as that breaks down, which is essentially the substrate of the film itself. So when that breaks down, you start getting wrinkling of it, essentially. And it off-gases. You can smell acetic acid, vinegar in the air. And so they were very generous to allow me to budget and find a really good vendor to do all that work. And now we have at our fingertips all of that, which is really interesting. So I don't know if you're interested in seeing, and you can see the Sharpie just written on the can, what it is.
Really, really, it feels old.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Cowboys versus Giants.
Yeah. 12-4 of 1960. So one of the very first games we ever played.
12-4. So that'd be December 4th.
Yeah.
End of the first season when they were 0-13-1.
Yeah. That was a rough one, but to be expected.
Remember, were the Giants the team they tied in that game?
We beat the Giants in Kentucky in a preseason game. And you caught me off guard. I'd have
in my
to
book,
look that back up.
which you can get on donmeredithbook.com, there I do have that back.
Yeah, that may very well be.
Yeah.
That sounds right because it took a while before they were able to do much. Sorry, I don't mean to keep leaning over.
No, that's okay.
Let's see.
Every time you come back up, you have a gem.
Yeah, I'll go back to some more paper here. Oh, with the playbook, we also have, starting, I guess, around the 80s or so, all of Tom Landry's sideline play cards that you'd see him in the famous pictures with his arms crossed like that.
Yeah.
These were, and you're welcome to touch that. You're not going to hurt that. All handwritten and color coded. I think that one's from 83, maybe 1983.
So these are Landry's plays that he would call, right?
That was the sheet he was, holding in his hand, and you see the game time situations, and then the I don't know exactly what his modus operandi was, but yeah.
So somewhere in here, in these papers, is a play that Landry called, that Meredith vetoed and called his own play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I bet Landry was real happy about
He was
that.
totally ticked off, and
I
he
bet he
told
was.
Don that he wanted him to do the play and not worry about scoring touchdowns. Just do the play. You know?
Yeah, like a trust the process kind of moment. But these are interesting because you have goal line, 3rd and 6 to 12 yards, 3rd and 3, 4, or 5 yards, and I have no idea what any of these mean. Deceptives, kill the clock. I think it's really fascinating to see. And you see, Shoddy today, he's got that mechanical pencil, and he's jotting down. Everybody's got some version of this nowadays.
And of course, now it's to cover your mouth so that lip readers can't.
Yeah, and then there's that too. I'm sure there's a lot of strategy they have to deal with nowadays on that. But I thought you'd find that interesting as well. So we have all the
I always wondered what they look like. Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of see them in certain photos, but seeing it up close is a totally different thing. More paper, like this is a 1963 lease agreement between the Cowboys and the State Fair of Texas for the Cotton Bowl, back when they did that. Mm-hmm. So you got the old
carbon paper,
onion skin paper, and
1963.
In the back, you also have the actual signatures. Let me see if I can.
So that was the Cowboys' 4th season.
So we have Tex Schramm's signature on here. Who else we got? Bedford Wynn, secretary. He was Clint Murkison's best friend and helped set up the franchise. He's the one that really did all the heavy lifting on getting the franchise set up, and all the correspondence with George Halas and the commissioner at the time, Austin Gunsel, and all of that. So he was there when it mattered, like when Meredith signed his contract. Mm-hmm. Wynn was there. Yeah. Yeah. And, George Halas, you probably know that story from your book, but, doing that favor for the Cowboys of realizing you're going to need a quarterback, and, we'll give that to you. And
we need you to have fans coming into the Cotton Bowl. So we're going to let you. So Halas drafted Meredith and then traded him to Landry or to Schramm for players and money.
Yeah. And a 3rd round pick, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I looked through Don's contract, all of that documentation's in there. The whole strategy, how they're going to work that out. It's kind of neat. And then while we're on paper, because paper can be boring sometimes, but this was just an interesting note I found in a file. It's from Lamar Hunt to Tex Schramm regarding a news article when they were working on the NFL-AFL merger. So from the desk of Lamar Hunt, he signs it. A media report of a late leak indicating an issue with the merger and how that was going to be handled. And it's kind of incredible when we start digging what we find, and now years from now it'll be emails and things like that. But I think it's really fascinating, a lot more interesting when it's tangible items like that. So
I agree.
Have that from Mr. Hunt. And then while I was in that file, I just found a few. This is a letter from a guy named Bill Sullivan with the Boston Patriots from 1966. It was one of the first times him and Tex Schramm met to talk about the merger committees with the NFL and the AFL. on their old AFL Boston Patriots letterhead. And this, the carbon copy response from Tech Schramm back to him. So whenever we're looking at something or doing it, say a documentary on something like that, like the NFL-IFL merger and how that all happened, we can go to these primary sources, at least from the Dallas Cowboys side, and see exactly what was going on. And sometimes correct stories that have been told, for many years that maybe aren't necessarily untrue, but there's a little more to it, or it's not quite right. And then this is just a neat, from their first season, like this was a little mailer that would go out encouraging people to buy season tickets.
Which they did.
And I didn't even realize there's Don on there as well.
This is from the first year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think they sold a lot of season tickets.
They did. If you look at the ledger books.
Yeah, I see it was like 5,000 in attendance and a 70,000 Cotton Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. And they realize that if you're interested in a cool story,
I am.
The coolest thing I think I've ever found doing this job, my background starting out in archiving was in audio and video preservation engineering. We're cleaning out Valley Ranch. I come across a few file folders from from Bedford Wynn's law offices. And I was like, I need to look in that. And it was all his correspondence to setting up the franchise. All of it with Tom Landry, with everything. Paper-clipped inside were 3 SoundScriber discs. So these were cellulose acetate, little floppy records that would be cut in real time when you're recording. And what they had China marker on them that said November 1959 and October 1959. I was like, I'm going to take those home and digitize those like I used to do professionally. Turns out it was a whole series of recorded phone calls between different combinations of Bedford Wynn, Tex Schramm, and Clint Murkison Jr. talking about all types of things, how we're going to get a franchise, who we're going to get a coach, which at first was going to be Sid Gilman from the Rams. And then they got into, should we buy a team and move it here versus trying to start a franchise? And the NFL wanted to expand. But they really looked deep into that, bringing in the Chicago Cardinals, or, there was teams they were looking at that maybe it'd be easier and we could sell tickets. We could maybe recoup some money faster on the financial side than you bring in a franchise, and it's probably not going to make any money for a few years. I'm glad they ended up deciding what they decided.
I wonder how they recorded those calls.
Was a little sound, so it's a lateral cut disc recording technology. So prior to those, they were pieces of sheet metal coated in cellulose acetate, like you do air checks on the radio, and they were called lateral cut transcription discs. Mm-hmm. During World War II, they made them out of glass. The base was glass for the metal shortages during the war. And then before you had that technology, you had wire recording. An English scientist named Paulson developed basically electromagnetic induction on wire, going back to the turn of the 20th century, like the old Weber and Webcore wire recorders. Because it wasn't until after World War II that Ampex brought out, the Germans invented magnetic audio tape and figured out bias. It was actually on paper. And then that came to the United States, and Ampex created, released the first commercial magnetic audio tape.
So they had a feeling that this was historic, these phone calls.
Honestly, I think it's because Tex Schramm was out in, he was with CBS at the time. I think it was, most of the calls were with Bedford and Tex Schramm. And I think it was really so his either secretaries could, steno that to get messages to Clint.
Oh, okay.
I think it was really just to go back and reference, like, what was he saying? Because they were really leaning heavy on Tex Schramm on how to do this stuff. That's what they hired him for in the first place. And I think it was really just there were some kind of long-winded conversations to be able to go back.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah. We actually did a documentary in 2020 on the birth of our franchise, and we interleaved those recordings into into that. So it's part of our Deep Blue
Wow.
documentary series.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
What
I'll
else you got?
stop boring you with paper.
No, I don't. You're talking to a journalist who doesn't get bored with paper.
Okay.
So
Great.
what else you got?
Well, for your audience, maybe. But is it okay if I like scooched back? I'm trying to figure out how to not keep leaning over.
Yeah, we're all right. Whatever you think's best.
You were talking about the ice bowl in an email.
Yeah, the ice ball.
We have lots of photos. So I manage about over 4 million digital images. A lot of those are things that were physical and been digitized. Hundreds of thousands of physical photos, as well as all the videotape and film. And this is just kind of example. This is the Cowboys Eastern Conference champs photo in 1967. This is what was used to, see if I can get the light right, used to create black and white prints, to give out as PR photos. So you can see how they have this here. All the old darkroom techniques.
Half these guys had frostbite.
Yeah.
That's
Pettis Norman and
yeah.
all those greats that were there during that game. And we use a lot of these. It's interesting too. Even things like these jackets that the coaches are wearing. It's incredible in archiving how you can use everything to some degree for your brand, for marketing, for telling your story right, and for product for sale. So a lot of times I'll find photos like this and we'll do high resolution scanning and pull up like these jackets in the Dallas Cowboys script for, say, our merchandising designers. If they want to do some kind of throwback retro jacket, I can give them all different types of examples of what those looked like at different times, and then they can put their design touch on it and create some really neat products for our fans. This one is a little less football club related, but with AT&T Stadium and all of the events we do, and we have the World Cup coming, which is really, really exciting. I found this back in 2009. This was the first sporting event to be hosted at the stadium. It was the CONCACAF Soccer Gold Cup. And this was a ball used in the game that the event manager sent to Mr. Jones with a letter as giving him a memento from the game.
Wow.
And so these kinds of things, I wasn't there in 2009, but they keep all these. And now what happens is things like this get sent, and Mr. Jones either displays them at his home or in his office. We display them in one of our facilities, or they get sent to me for, preservation in perpetuity to be able to display at later dates.
How about that?
And a few people signed it. I think this gentleman, David Taylor, was the venue manager for it. And I'm not exactly sure who or what that is. That's some of the fun too, is you get to find these and go, I need to figure out what this is all about, which is kind
It's
of
like being a detective.
And you get to see some of the markings on that it was used in the game and all that kind of stuff.
So this was for the first soccer game played at
the first sporting event at AT&T Stadium.
First sporting event
was this. Actually, it was a soccer game,
Okay.
which is interesting.
Wow.
And very relevant with the World Cup coming here, coming very soon. On that same theme, we have all of our tickets going back. This is opening night, first game at AT&T Stadium, our first regular season football game. That was kind of cool. These were, made to be a memento to have from the game. So
My son went to that game.
of all this. Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Very cool. That we have all those kinds of things. Here's another older piece here. If I could, maybe I could do this. Hey, smart.
What's he going to pull out next, folks?
This is the Super Bowl V MVP ball, also autographed by Chuck Howley when he won the MVP of this Super Bowl we lost, and the first and only Super Bowl probably ever that a defensive player won the MVP. So this is...
And how come he didn't keep it?
Well, this is actually on loan to us from the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Oh,
So we've had it for quite a while on display in different times.
oh, wow.
But kind of a neat piece to have.
Yeah, that is.
Piece of history.
Because I'm sure most MVP winners kept the game.
Yeah. And I don't know if maybe they made an extra one just for the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure. And then something a little more modern. So we have, lots of footballs and pieces of equipment. We were talking about Emmitt Smith before we went on air here. I have a set of his shoulder pads from the 90s. I have Bob Lilly's 1966 season shoulder pads, which are actually on display at the Omni in Frisco, at the Star. In a cool, we put in Neighborhood Services, the restaurant, we put in an actual coach's locker from the old Forest Lane practice facility, which was like 64 to 1985 when we opened Valley Ranch. And inside it, we have a pair of Tony Dorsett's game used pants and Bob Lilly's game used season knee pads, shoulder pads, a lot of things like that you can go see there, which is kind of neat.
So that's at the Omni at the Star.
Yeah, and inside down the lobby is a restaurant called Neighborhood Services, and we lent them and helped them curate a lot of the memorabilia inside, and that was one of them, which was really neat. And we have the elevation blueprints of Texas Stadium, flanking the bar. It's really, really neat. As long as I'm assuming all of that's still there. I haven't actually walked in there in a couple years, but I need to go check that out. But yeah, we have a lot of lockers. I got Troy Aikman's locker from Texas Stadium. Well, I don't. The Cowboys do, but I take care of that.
Yeah.
We have 3. I kept and moved. It was really difficult. 3 of the lockers from the locker room at Valley Ranch. So we kept what was Emmitt Smith's, Jason Witten's, and Tony Romo's. And I'm sure other previous players. And Darren Woodson's. The famous locker where he wrote in Sharpie inside, he wrote the dates and then world champs, Super Bowls, 27, 28, 30, world champs, real big. We kept that. I have Tom Landry's couches from his office, his waiting room chairs. I have Tex Schramm's couches. We have a locker from our new facility at the Star out of the locker room. What am I missing? And we have maybe 6 lockers from the Forest Lane facility. And we even have the entire, I think it's from like the 20-yard line to 20-yard line, center of the turf of Texas Stadium I have rolled up, stored. The whole thing. That was interesting to move that from a facility to a new facility on a tractor trailer and a bunch of piano dollies. That was a bear, but we have it in case we ever need it. And something, this might be the last thing I have, something a little more modern. This is a regular game football signed by Roger Staubach and Drew Pearson. So speaking of the Hail Mary, when we opened the Star, we did a little tribute there to the Hail Mary where both gentlemen were present and they wore some cleats we have autographed too, where they set their feet 50 yards apart in these little cement, probably should have a better word for it. Really shrines is what they are in the ground that you can walk up and see and stand on at the Star. And they threw a couple footballs back and forth to each other. And this is one of the ones they do to commemorate that.
Wow.
So we have that signed as well. So
Love
anything I can get my hands on that represents our history, our legacy, or that will be in the future, I'm trying to get a hold of.
Yeah, I donated a copy of my book, and I donated my Bubbles Cash interview with the famous stripper who was the Cowboys' unofficial mascot.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of things in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that your last item?
I believe that it is.
Well,
Try to give you a nice cross section of what we have and what we're trying to do and what we do with it.
Well, what I come away with thinking is that, for all his unpopularity and controversy, Jerry Jones was smart enough to hire you to archive the history of the $10 billion world famous sports franchise. And he deserves credit for that.
He does. I'm very grateful to Mr. Jones, the entire family. It's honestly, it's a real pleasure working with them. It's great. I love it. I know that a lot of people have different opinions on them and how they go
Sure.
about doing things, but the success is undeniable, and we're always relevant. And they're really, I don't want to speak for them, but what I've felt since I've worked here is that this is important. This is extremely important.
Yeah.
The history and the legacy. I think Mr. Jones would be the first to tell you his admiration for Tex Schramm and Tom Landry and what they did and what they built. And so my job is to protect all of that and keep it alive and relevant, as well as the Jones family and their relevancy now and into the future.
Well, Jonathan Thorn, archivist for the Dallas Cowboys, thank you for coming.
Thank you for
I
having me.
think this puts a whole new perspective on really football and history and the importance of it in our culture. And we have thousands of dollars of memorabilia here that just represent
Don't tell them our location.
No, I'm not. $10 million football team, and we have the way that it happened right here.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
thank you for coming on the Dave Lieber
thank
Show.
you.
Appreciate it very much. This was great.
Yeah, absolutely.